Yeah. The today's topic is deep dive into statistics for GMAT. So in GMAT, in quants, there are many topics which are covered. In that, we also have questions from statistics. The questions will consist of both problem solving and data sufficiency questions. Hope you all are aware that in GMAT we have two types of questions, problem solving and data sufficiency questions. So statistics questions can come in both the type of questions. So now, what does statistics actually contain? What are the topics involved in statistics? Yeah, can you look at it? We'll move on here. So the topics under statistics which we are going to cover today are average. So you all know what average is, right? The other word for average is arithmetic mean, right? And the next topic which we are going to see after average is, can you guess? Yeah, it is median. So after median, we're going to be look on to mode, and then comes the range, and then the important one, most important, which is standard deviation, right? So we are going to look at all these topics now today in detail and how the questions are going to come in your GMAT. So shall we start? Are you all ready for the session? Are you all able to hear me clearly? I think yes. Yeah. Yes, great. Am I audible, right? Yeah. So shall we now start with that? The first topic we are going to look into now is your average. So what is average? As I said, it is also called as arithmetic mean or simply mean, right? So how do we calculate average? Average is the total by the number of things, right? Yeah, are you all hearing me? Yes. So the average is total by number of things. Now, if you know average and if you know number of things, we can also find the total, right? So if you say, if I know the average, so it is going to be average into number of things is going to give me the total, right? Is going to give me the total. So same way, if I know, right? If I know average and the total, how can I get the number of things? Total by average will give me number of things, right? Total by average will give me number of things. Same way, with the same detail, we can get all these informations required. It is just a simple one. Now, let us move on to the question involving average. So, we are just going to see before that how to answer the data sufficiency questions. So, problem solving questions, you all know you will have 5 answer options. You have to solve and get the answers. And in data sufficiency also, you're going to have the same 5 options, right? And how to understand the answer options, I just like to just give a brief about that first, right? So first, when you get a data sufficiency question, you have to read the question and determine what is to be found. Then in the data sufficiency question, you're going to have 2 statements given. So first you have to consider the statement 1 and then decide whether the statement 1 is sufficient for you to get the answer for the question or not. If it is sufficient, your answer option has to be A or D. If the first statement is not sufficient by itself, then your answer you have to choose is going to be B, C or E. Then you have to consider the statement 2. When you are considering the statement 2, you have to just consider the statement 2 alone. Don't carry the statement 1's data in your mind. So when you are considering the statement 2 alone, You have to check whether that statement alone is enough for you to get a sufficient answer for the question. So if it is sufficient, then your answer option will be D. So when first you got the statement 1 to be insufficient, and when you have chosen BCE, you will again go to statement 2, and if the statement 2 is not sufficient, or if it is sufficient, your answer is going to be. If it is not sufficient, that is when it is going to be C or E, right? Then if both statements are not individually sufficient, then we have to combine both the statements 1 and 2. That is when you have to consider both the statements information and look at whether both the statements combined are going to give you the answer for the question. So if both together are giving you sufficient information, then it is C, and if both together are also not sufficient, then you have to select your option as answer E. So this is what A, B, C, D, E in the answer choices of data sufficiency is about. It is always going to be the same. So this you have to be aware of, right? Now we'll move on to the data sufficiency question, so which will be helpful for you to answer the questions. Now the question here is, a report consisting of 2,600 words is divided into 23 paragraphs. A 2-paragraph preface is then added to the report. Is the average number of words per paragraph for all the 25 paragraphs less than 120? So what did I say? First determine what the question is saying and what we have to find, right? Then only we'll move on to the statements. Each paragraph of the preface has more than 100 words, and each paragraph of the preface has fewer than 150 words. Now let us concentrate on the question first. So the question is saying a report consisting of 2,600 words is divided into 23 paragraphs. So from that, and again a 2-paragraph is added. Is the average number of words per paragraph for all 25 paragraphs less than 220? So when we know this, the average has to be less than 20. If it is equal to 120, what will be the total number of words in the paragraph? That is the information we know from the question. So 25 into 120 will give us 3000. So if it has to be equal to 120, then the total words should be less than, it will be 3000, but we wanted less than 120. So the total words should be less than 3000. And already we know there are 2600 words in the 23 paragraphs. Now we are going to add 2 more paragraphs, right? So what else we can infer from this? What are we expecting from the statement? Yeah? What we should get is the words in the 2 added paragraphs less than 400. That is the data we require from the statement, because we know it has to be less than 3000 and we are already having 2600. So if I had 400, it is going to become 3000, but I wanted less than that. So the 2 added paragraphs should have words less than 400. So once you understand the question, it will be clear for us to go with the statements now. So the first statement says each paragraph of the preface has more than 100 words. So does that help you to know that the 2 added paragraphs are going to have less than 400 words? Can you give me the answer in the chat box? Is this statement sufficient for you to know whether the words in the 2 added paragraphs are going to be less than 400? Yeah, it may or may not, because it is more than 100, right? If it is 100 itself or 101, you can have less than 400. If it is more than that, you can have. So what can we say? Is the statement going to be sufficient? If not sufficient, what is going to be our answer option? Can you type in? What is going to be our answer option? Which one can we select now? Yeah. Since the first statement is not sufficient, we have to select the answer option as B, right? B, C or E. Great. Now you have to go and look into the second statement. So what does the second statement say? Each paragraph of the preface has fewer than 150 words. So we know that the 2 paragraphs are going to have less than 150 words each. Now tell me, is this statement alone sufficient for us to know whether the 2 added paragraph words are going to be less than 400? Is this sufficient? Yes or no? Can you type in? Why no? Yes, Siva, why you are feeling it is no? When I say fewer than 150 words, that means definitely two paragraphs together is going to have words less than 300. Right? So less than 400, less than 300 is nothing but less than 400. Yeah. So automatically I know what is the question actually we are answering for. Is the average number of words per paragraph for all the 25 paragraphs less than 120? So I will definitely get an answer for this, and my answer will be yes, right? So this statement alone is sufficient for me to get the answer. Right? So what is going to be my answer now? If the second statement alone is sufficient, what answer am I going to choose now? Yeah, so it is B. Great. So you all understood the answer options now clearly, right? Yes. So moving on, can we move on to the next question? So your answer option here is B because the second statement alone was sufficient to give an answer for our question. So when I say the answer for the question, the answers can either be a yes or a no, right? So I can say yes, the average is going to be less than 120, or I can say no, the average is not going to be less than 120. But the same statement should not tell me that yes sometimes and no sometimes. That is where I say it is not sufficient, right? So now moving on to the next question. Yeah, so this is a problem solving question. In a small snack shop, the average revenue was $400 per day over a 10-day period. During this period, if the average daily revenue was $360 for the first 6 days, what was the average daily revenue for the last 4 days? So, one second. Yes, Shyam, you were asking some question, right? Shyam, who was asking the question? One second, chat. Yeah. At what level would the previous question? Yeah. So have you taken any mock test, Shyam? Or have you taken any GMAT tests? Did you take the actual one or the mock test? You have taken the prep. So did you find any question like this, and how did you feel this question will be like? If you understand the way how to answer the data sufficiency question, that is not going to be a very hard question, right? And also when you know how to find the average. So we can say it can be a medium level question, right? It is a medium level question, not a hard question. Okay, yeah. So others who joined late, we just started with our session and we just going through the questions in the average. And we saw one data sufficiency question in the average, and now we are going to look at the problem solving question, which also consists of average question. So what type of average can you say this? It is, we are having the average for the all 10 days, right? And we are also having the average revenue for the first 6 days, and the question is asking for the average daily revenue for the last 4 days. So once we know the total average is 400 for the 10-day period, we can get the total. So the total of 10 days is going to be 400 into 10. So the question here is, if 400 is equal to the average of the 6 days plus the average of the 4 days by number of days. Because average is the total divided by the number of items. So now we can get 400 into 10, which will give you 4000, and 360 into 6 is 2160 and 4x. Now it is easy for you to get the average daily revenue for the last 4 days. So can you all tell me what the answer is going to be? Yeah, what can be the answer? X is 460. So what is going to be your answer option? Answer option D. So this is also called as weighted average question, where you are having two different averages and combining them and getting it, right? So this is also one type of average question which we can get in our GMAT. Are you all clear with it? Can we go on to the next question? So we saw average. The next topic we are going to see is median. So what is median? Median is the middle number of n numbers ordered from least to greatest. So in median, just not finding the middle number is important. You also have to arrange them in first in order from least to the greatest and then get the middle value. Otherwise the median will not be correct. So let us see some example of how to get the median. So when odd number of terms are there, you will have one middle value. But when the number of terms are even, you will have two middle values. So you have to take the average of the middle two numbers. So a simple example for that. What is the median of 7, 15, minus 11, 0, 8, 6, 7? So what is the first important step? We have to arrange them in order. So after arranging them in order, you have to just get the middle value. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 items. So odd number of terms. So you are getting one middle value, which is your 7. But if you are going to have another question like this, what is the median of 8, 13, 5, 10, 4 and 15? Here we are having 6 items. So what will be the median of the 6 items? So it is going to be first arranging in order and then look at it. You are going to have two middle values. So you are going to take the average of the middle two. So your answer is going to be 8 plus 10 by 2, which is 9, right? So this is just to understand how to get the median if there are even number of terms or odd number. Now going on to the question which involves median. If m is the average of the first 10 positive multiples of 5 and m is the median of the, that is small m and capital M, is the median of the first 10 positive multiples of 5, what is the value of capital M minus small m minus m, right? So this small m is the average and this capital M is the median for first 10 positive multiples of 5. So let us first list it out, the positive multiples of 5. Yeah. Since positive, we are not adding 0, right? Because 0 is neither positive nor negative. So positive multiples of 5 are there. And what will be the median for this? Because always median is easier to find than the average. Average you have to add and then divide. But median, by just looking, you can get the median. So what is going to be the median of these numbers? You are having two middle values. So the average of them is going to be your median. Since they wanted the average also, you need to find out the average. Average is adding all the numbers and dividing by the number of items. So you are getting same 27.5. So we wanted the difference between them. So what is the difference going to be? Since both are same values, the difference is 0. So there is one concept in this. If you know the concept, we could have got the answer without doing our calculation. So what we can know here is when they say positive multiples of 5, all are going to have the same difference between the numbers. When the difference between the numbers are same, what are they called? Yeah, can you type in your answer? When the difference between the numbers are same, how do we say them? The numbers are in, what is the pattern they follow? They are said to be in, are you aware of that? It is arithmetic progression. That is, the difference between the consecutive numbers will be the same. Then they are said to be in arithmetic progression. When they are in arithmetic progression, the mean and the median both will be the same always. So when mean and median are same, the difference is always going to be 0. So you can remember this concept, which will be really very helpful to solve many questions. Okay. So now moving on to the next question. It is again a data sufficiency question. List x and y consist of the same number of positive integers. Is the median of the integers in x greater than the average of the integers in y? So the question is asking, is the median of the integers in x greater than the average of the integers in y? And the statements supporting are, the integers in x are consecutive even integers, and the integers in y are consecutive odd integers. So the statement only tells what are going to be the elements in the x and y. And the second statement says the sum of the integers in x is greater than the sum of the integers in y. So in data sufficiency question, as I said, we should first concentrate on the question alone and know what is given and what are we supposed to find. So when we look at the statement, list x and y are the same number of positive integer, and the question we are concerned is the median of x greater than the integers, average of the integers in y. So that is what we can simply write this simpler version of the question. Now concentrate on the first statement. The integer in x are consecutive even integers and the integers in y are consecutive odd integers. So can we do this without giving any values? So it is better if you try it out with some values. So but whenever you are giving values, you have to fix with the condition given in the statement, right? So x should be consecutive even and y should be consecutive odd, and the condition on the question already is x and y consist of same number of integers. So if here it is 3 elements, here also 3 elements. Now can you say, is the median of x going to be greater than the average of y? Yeah, can you all give me the answer here? Is it going to be a yes or a no? Can you all type your answer in the chat box? Yes. So here they both are same. So can I say this statement is sufficient and can I say my answer is going to be AD? What type of question is this? Is the median greater than average of y? Means it can be yes, the median is greater, or no, the median is not greater. So I should not just say the statement is sufficient. I should try if any other number is giving me a no for this answer, right? So can I get a no which satisfies the statement and also the condition in the question? So how to get numbers for that? If I want to get a no, what should be my answer? The median of the x should not be greater than the average of y. So how to choose the number? Yes, yeah, 246 and 357. So when it is 246, the median of the x is not greater. Great. So then you're getting a no, right? So let me see what numbers I have chosen. I have chosen same 6, 8, 10, and instead here y I have tried a bigger number, right? So when this I can make sure. Great, Sham, you are able to do that. And here is the average of y greater or median greater, right? So median is 8 and the average is 103. So here I am going to get a no. So one yes and one no, then my statement is not sufficient. If my statement is not sufficient, it is BCE. Great. So now moving on to the statement 2. So when we are going to the statement 2, consider the statement 2 alone. The sum of the integers in x is greater than the sum of the integers in y. Sum of the integers. So I have to get the sum of the integers in x, which should be greater than the sum of the integers in y. So I can choose 12, 14, 16 and 3, 5 and 7. Even though it is not told consecutive, I can take it. May be consecutive or may not be consecutive. So I have taken this way 12, 14 and 16 and y as 3, 5 and 7 because I wanted the sum of the integers in x greater. I have taken bigger values for x. So I am satisfying the condition. Now I have to go and answer my question. Is the median of x greater than the average of y? So what is the median here? 14. And what will be the average for y? Same 5. Since they are consecutive, the middle value is going to be the mean and as well as the median. So that concept also we can use here. So now I am getting my median greater than average? Yes. So how can I get my median not to be greater than my average? How to choose numbers for this? One, easily I got a yes because I know it can give me a yes. So can I get a no? Which number will help me to get a no? How to decide on the numbers? I have to stick with sum of the integer in x should be greater than the sum of the integer in y. Yeah, by not consecutive. Great. Because that is not specified in the statement. So what numbers will hold good? There are many numbers, right? So I should always look into the number which is going to tell me that median is lesser than the average. Yeah, so I wanted my median to be lesser than the average. Since you said not consecutive, we can also repeat the numbers, right? So I have just taken 2, 2, 5 and 1, 3, 4, a simpler number. So here, what is my median? 2. And what is my average in Y? 3. So here, it is satisfying the condition in the statement, but my median is greater than average? No. So again, 1 yes and 1 no. It cannot be option B. So once the statement, both the statements are not individually sufficient, we have to combine statement 1 and 2. And when I combine 1 and 2, I have to follow the condition that they have to be consecutive even and Y has to be consecutive odd. So when I apply that and when I also satisfy the condition here, both are giving me always a yes. So I need not try separately. When I do with my old numbers which I have already used, I am getting that, right? The number which I have used here is satisfying both the statement 1 and the statement 2. But I can also look at it if I can get a no. So will it be possible to get a no? So always, since this condition is there, they have to be consecutive even or odd. I will never get a no. So always it is going to be a yes. So when I get an yes, my answer option is going to be answer C, right? So choosing the numbers good will always be better, and you can also recycle the numbers which you have already used. So you need not keep trying for new numbers, because trying new numbers you may be ending on wasting more time. So choose numbers wisely so that you can use the numbers again for the other conditions. Clear? So let us move on to the next one. So there are 3 M's in statistics, right? Mean, median, and mode. So now we are going to come across mode. What is mode? What is mode? Yeah? We saw mean, we saw median, and what is mode? Mode is the highest frequency of a number in the list. The number which comes most number of times. That is going to be the mode in the given number of lists. So now let us see the smaller example for that. What is the mode of 2, 11, 13, 15, 2, 8 and 6? So which number has occurred most number of times here? So that is going to be your mode. So 2 has come twice. So 2 is your mode. Now if you have another set of numbers like this, so what is going to be the mode here? 7, 12, 16, 9, 7 and 9. So here both 7 and 9 both are coming twice. So that means we are going to have both 7 and 9 as the mode. So there can be more than one mode, right? So not necessarily they should have only one mode. You can also have more than one mode. And for example, if all the numbers appears only once, then what is going to be your mode? If all the numbers appears only once, what will be your mode? Can you just type in? Will you say 0 is the mode? It will be no mode. If all the numbers appear only once, there is no mode. Okay. So now moving on to the questions involving the mode. Yeah. The mode of a list of integers is n. What is the difference between the median of the integers in the list and n? So since we have already seen median and mode, now we are going to combine a question getting like this. If the mode of a list of integers is n, what is the difference between the median of the integers in the list and n? So this is a data sufficiency question. So what is the statement 1 going to be? The difference between any two integers in the list is less than 3. This is the first statement. And the second statement says the average of the integers in the list is n. So you can get combined questions like this which involves all average, median, mode, right? You can expect questions like this in your GMAT. So now how to answer this question? As we did earlier, we are just going to first concentrate on the main question first, right? So the mode of the list of the integers is n. What is the difference between the median of the integers in the list and n? That is, they wanted the difference between median and mode. So median minus mode is equal to what? Is a simpler version of the question. So do you all remember any formula to do this one? Do we have any formula? Median minus mode. Do we require any formula for data sufficiency? So in data sufficiency questions, what are we to concentrate? Whether the given statement is sufficient for you to get the answer or not. So moving on to the statement 1, the difference between any two integers in the list is less than 3. So the numbers which I am going to select should be having a difference less than 3 between them. So I should choose numbers. So the easy number will be all the numbers are same. So if all the numbers are same, the difference is going to be 0. So in this case, I get my median also as 5 and mode also as 5. So the question median minus mode is always going to be 0 here. But is this the only possible way of selecting numbers? So I got median minus mode is equal to 0. So am I going to get the difference as always 0, or can I get any other different answer? That is how I have to check when I'm going to give the values, because I have chosen all of them to be the same. But my condition is it can be, difference can be less than 3. So I should try the other number. So if I have to always fix with mode, right? If my mode is some 2, and I should choose numbers which satisfies the condition like the difference should be less than 3. So I have chosen my mode to be 2, and the difference can be less only if it is very closer. So my other numbers are 3 and 4. So my median here is 2.5 because even number, right? So average of 2 and 3, but my mode is 2. So they are definitely not equal to 0. So one time it was equal to 0 and one time it was not equal to 0. That is, I am getting two different values. So that means this statement is not sufficient. This is insufficient to get me that is, my answer should be a sure answer, right? I cannot get different answers. So what is going to be my answer option? What is going to be my answer option when the first statement is not sufficient? It is going to be B, C and E, right? Now, the average of the integers in the list is n. So, average of the integers if the list is n. What is n already? We know from the question. It is the mode, right? That means the average should be equal to the mode. So, I should choose numbers. So, as I said, we can recycle the numbers which we have used. I am using the same number. So, here the average is also 5 and my mode is also 5. So I can use this number. So my median minus mode is also going to be 0 because median is also 5. So now I have got a 0. Now I should choose some other number. So as I said, we can fix for the mode and choose another number. So I have fixed my mode as 2, but what is the condition? The mode of the list is also equal to the average. So I should get my average also as 2. So how can I get my average as 2? Accordingly, I should fix some numbers. So when I have to get my average as a smaller number, I can know that I can have some negative numbers in the list. So we have chosen number like this, and you can balance the number. So you always have to fix the mode first and accordingly choose the numbers. When I know the mode is 2 and I also know my average also has to be 2, I should have my numbers which can equate it to this, right? So that will be easier way of choosing numbers. Otherwise, it will not be possible to keep searching for numbers at that time. So always fix with one value and move on with that. So it will be easy to select numbers, right? So here my mode is 2, mean is 2, but my median is not 2. That is not the condition here. So when I have the difference, it is not going to be 0. So this statement, once it is 0 and once it is not 0, the second statement is also not sufficient. So then, what am I to do? If both the statements are not sufficient, that is where I am going to combine statement 1 and 2. So when I combine, I should see to that the difference between any two integers in the list is less than 3 and the average should be equal to the mode. These three conditions I should satisfy when I am combining the statement 1 and 2. So which number can I repeat now? Since I know 555 is working, I can use the same number to get a yes, right? Median minus mode is 0. So to get some other value, I should choose for some numbers which is going to help me. So here I said fix with the mode, right? So my mode is 2 and my median is but what is the other condition when I fix mode as 2? I should also see to that the difference between any two integers in the list is less than 3. So I cannot use these type of numbers when I combine the statement because here the difference is not less than 3. So when I see the difference has to be less than 3, the only possible is it will be symmetrical on the both sides. So that is how the difference will be the same. It is going to be less than 6. So if I have chosen 2, my other numbers can be only 1 and 3. Even if you choose bigger numbers, but the difference between the two numbers should always be less than 3. So I have to maintain that. So in that case, I will always get my median minus mode to be equal to 0. So combined together, it is always giving me a 0. That means my answer is going to be C. So the previous one we saw was yes or no, and here we are getting a value. So when you get a value for the data sufficiency, always you should get the same value for the question, right? You cannot get different values. If you're going to get the same value, then only it is sufficient. Different values, they are not sufficient, right? Hope you are all clear with this. Now the next topic we are going to see is range. So what is range? It's a long time since you all have given anything in your chat box. So give me the answer for that. What is range? Yeah, what is range? Are you all here? Can you all give me the answer for that in the chat box? Yes? Are you all hearing me? So the range is difference between the smallest, highest minus lowest. Great. The range is the difference between the maximum and the minimum. Great. Yeah. So if I have a list of numbers, the difference between the maximum and the minimum will be the range. So range of n numbers is difference between smallest and the largest number is the definition for that. So now let's have a smaller example. The range of 7 consecutive positive multiples of 3. Yeah. Yes, Shyam. Great. The range of 7 consecutive positive multiples of 3. So what will be the range for this? 7 consecutive positive multiples of 3. Can you all find it out? So what is the minimum and what is the maximum in the 7 consecutive positive multiples of 3? I can start from 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21. Yeah, so 21 minus 3, 18 is going to be my range. This is just an example of how to get the range, right? So now we are going to see some questions which are going to involve range. So hope you all would like to look at a data sufficiency questions which is going to involve your range. Let us look at in the question now. Yeah. So what was the range of the selling prices of 30 wallets sold by a certain store yesterday? So the question is asking for the range of the selling prices. So that means we need to know the selling prices, the maximum selling price and the minimum selling price. So we are going to see from the statement, are we getting that data, right? So the first statement says 1/3 of the wallets had a selling price of $24 each. So we know some set of values. Then the second statement says the lowest selling price of the wallet was 1/3 the highest selling price of the wallets. Now let us start solving the question. So the question is asking for the range. So when we know it is going to ask for the range, we know we wanted the highest and the lowest price. So but the first statement says 1/3 of the wallets had a selling price of $24 each. We know there are 30 wallets. So 1/3 of 30 is going to be 10. So that means 10 of the wallets had been sold for 24 each. So that is the only data we get, but we do not know the least or the greatest selling price. We know 10 were sold for 24, but we do not know whether that is the least or that is the maximum. So this statement is not sufficient by itself. When the first statement is not sufficient by itself, yeah, great, BCE. So concentrate on the second statement. The lowest selling price of the wallet was 1/3 the highest selling price of the wallet. So they have given the relation between the lowest selling price and the highest selling price. So is this going to help us to get the lowest and the highest? Can we get it? So what is the equation we will be forming? L is equal to 1 by 3 of G. But is this going to give you L and G? No. So this is also not sufficient. So when both the statements are not individually sufficient, we are going to combine. Great. So if we are combining the statement 1 and 2, are we getting the lowest and the great price? Are we getting it? Can you get? Yeah? So what is the answer going to be for this question? When I am combining, am I getting the required least value and the greatest value? So what will be my answer? Can you all just type in your answer here? Which option should I choose for this? What will be my answer option here? Is it both statements combined sufficient? No. Yeah, great, Shyam. So both together are not sufficient because the range can be anything. When they say the least is 1/3 of the greatest, I can have any value, right? So it will differ. I said when I want a value, it should always be the same value. So whenever I am not going to get the same value, the statement together is not sufficient. So my answer option is going to be C. Great. Because the value is asked. I should get a same value for always. I should not get two different values. That is why. Great. Yes, Arnab. Fine. So now, clear with the answer options in the data sufficiency. Both together, not sufficient. Our answer option is going to be E. Clear? So now, moving on to the next one. X is an integer greater than 7. What is the median of the set of integers from 1 to x inclusive? So we know x is an integer greater than 7. And what is the median of the set of integers from 1 to x inclusive? So how to do this? What type of question is this going to be? Can you guess? Are we going to have options or is it a data sufficiency question? Yes, the data is required. Correct. So the average of the set of integers from 1 to x is inclusive is 11. So first statement is this, and what is the second statement? The range of the set of integers from 1 to x inclusive is 20. So in this data sufficiency question, they have told x is an integer greater than 7, and the question is what is the median of the set of integers from 1 to x inclusive? So the average of the set of integers is 11 and the range of the set of integers from 1 to x inclusive is 20. So start with the statement 1. So when we know the median, that means we need to find the middle value, right? Median is always the middle value, and the average of the set of integers from 1 to x inclusive is 11. So what can we infer from that first statement? Yeah? Can you get any idea? Yes. When they say set of integers from 1 to x inclusive is 11 means it is going to be consecutive integers. And what did we know? If they are consecutive, the average is always going to be your median. So that if we have average of 11, that means the median is also going to be 11. So when they say consecutive integers, the difference is same, right? When the common difference is same, the mean is going to be equal to the median. So when we know the average is 11, the median is also going to be 11. So we are getting the answer for our question. What is the median of the set of integers from 1 to x inclusive? Yeah. So when we are getting answer, this is going to be sufficient. So when the statement 1 is sufficient, what is our answer options going to be? We are eliminating the other options B, C and E, and our answer option can be only A or D, right? When the first statement is sufficient, our answer option can either be a A or a D. Yeah. Which one can you explain the first statement again? Yeah. The average of the set of integers from 1 to x inclusive is 11. Right? So set of integers from 1 to x, that alone says that they are consecutive. from 1 to x, inclusive. So 1 is also there and x is also there, and set of integers from. So that tells they are consecutive integers, right? So that is a term which explains they are consecutive. Since they are consecutive, the average and the median are both going to be the same, right? Since it is said no repetition and 1 to x inclusive. Okay. Are you clear now, Shyam? The second one, the range of the set of integers from 1 to x inclusive is 20. So the range is given as 1 to 20. So when I say the range of the set of integers from 1 to x inclusive is 20. So what is range? Highest value minus lowest value. If my range has to be 20 and 1 is included there, so that means my highest value should be, what will be my highest value? 20 plus 1, 21. So my x value will be, yes, Ritesh. So it is 21. When I know it is 21, what can I infer? What is the question we are looking in for? Median of the set of integers. So what is the median going to be? And I know it is going to be from 1 to 21 and they are set of integers. So my median is going to be same 11, right? So that means the median is 11. I am getting the same. The range of set of integers. I didn't get your question. Can you? Set of integers described in the question. How is no repetition guaranteed? Yeah. So this word set, that explains that, Arnab. When I say set, it is distinct elements and it is not repeated. The set will not have repetition. Okay. So that is why it is a set. Fine. Are you now okay with that? Yeah. So now, since both the statements are individually sufficient and they are giving me the same answer, my answer option has to be D, right? So these are the words which we have to look into it and understand the question. Okay. So this is how they ask they put in the words so that we may get confused. So we should understand the question how they are asking, right? Yeah. Because it is set of integers from 1 to x. From 1 to x, so all the numbers included in that, right? They are not saying any integer from that. Set of integers from 1 to x inclusive. When I say write the numbers from 1 to 10, so you will not write 1, 5, 7, right? 1 to 10 means you will write all 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? The same way. Is it fine? Yeah. So moving on to the next one. One more question which involves all median, average and range. But this is a problem solving question. So list R contains 5 numbers that have an average value of 55. So I know the number is 5 and the average is 55. Immediately I know I can get the total of the 5 numbers. So as and when you read the question, you should immediately know what all data I can infer from the question, right? If the median of the list is equal to the mean, so median is equal to the mean and the largest number in the list is equal to 20 more than 3 times the smallest number. So that means the largest number in the list is equal to 20 more than 3 times the smallest number. So from that we can get the range. So what is the largest possible range for the numbers in the list? So they are asking the largest possible range. We do not know exactly whether they are consecutive or not. It can't be, right? So let us start with what we know in the question. We know the average is 55 and it has 5 numbers. So we can get the total to be 275, right? And if the median of the list is equal to the mean, and what will be the mean? That is 55. So that means my median also has to be 55. And what else do I know? The largest number is 20 more than 3 times the smallest number. So I have just chosen my smallest to be x. My largest will be 3x plus 20. And I should know what the other number has to be. The only thing I know here is the I know the minimum is, I know the minimum is x, and I know the maximum is 3x plus 20, and I know the median is 55. How many numbers are there? 5 numbers. So the middle value has to be 55. This alone I know, but I do not know about the remaining numbers. So how to get value for the remaining numbers? I have just taken. Can I take it this way? Since I know the total is 275 and my median is 55, right? So definitely I know this has to be 55. And since they wanted the largest possible range, I can have one way of having the same 55 here and x here, minimum, right? So that I can get the largest possible range. So I wanted the range to be bigger, so my lowest value has to be smaller. And this is one possible way of writing it. So if I have written it that way, so then I can equate it. Since it is with one variable, it is easy for me to get the range as 78. But is this the only way? Because I have to get the answers only from the options we have just found out, and I could have eliminated option D and E because they are very smaller than the median, right? Now, it can be the other way also, right? So the range here is 3x plus 20 minus x. That is what we know. So I am getting my range to be 2x plus 20, and I know my median has to be 5. Now how to get the values for the other one in the other way? I assumed here to be 55 and x. Why can't it be the other way, right? So this is the actual way. So there are 3 numbers other than 55, right? One is the minimum, one is the maximum, and other than that, I have a median, and I have one y and one z. So this way, how to choose values for y and z, right? So how to assume what x and what y and what z is going to be, which is going to help you here. Can you all tell me how to choose numbers here? How can you choose? So what can we infer from this? We know the range is 2x plus 20 and x has to be minimum and 3x plus 20 has to be the maximum. So when can I get the maximum value, largest possible range? So if I equate it, I'm going to get it like 4x plus y plus z is 200. Now, how then I can proceed? X will be maximum only when my y and z are minimum. When my y and z are minimum, then my x will be maximum. But range has to be maximum means the x has to be maximum. Then my y should be equal to x because my y can't be less than x. If my y is less than x, then it is not possible, right? My x is the lowest one. So my y has to be at least equal to x, but not definitely less than x. So that is how we have to choose values. So if this middle value is 55, my z has to be 55 only. That is how it is possible, right? This is one more way of analyzing and choosing the numbers. So by getting this way, we will also get our x as the same 29. When I know x is 29 and I know my range is 2x plus 20, I can get my range as 78. So just solving the question is not important. When we are going to analyze a question, you should also practice by how I can choose numbers and can I eliminate any options which cannot be the answers. So those also will help you to arrive at an answer in an easier way, right? So first read the question, understand and say what can we infer from the question and how are we to approach this question. These are all the things required for your GMAT, just then directly solving. They are not just testing your solving capacity, they are also testing how you comprehend the question and how you go about with the question. Yeah, first method was quicker, but I wanted also you to know why I have to choose like that, right? That is the reason I showed you the second one also. Thank you, Arnab. We'll move on to the next one. The next comes the standard deviation. So what is standard deviation? So dispersion, these are the words which we get, right? What is dispersion and what is standard deviation? Dispersion is how the data is spread. And what is standard deviation? Do you all remember the formula, the big tabular column and all which we used to put in our school days? Going back to your memory, to your schools, right? So is that going to be in our GMAT also? The recorded version will be there in the YouTube, Shyam. You can look at the version later, okay? Yeah. Now, standard deviation, ST, we generally call it in GMAT, right? And how to get it? Standard deviation is a measure of dispersion or variation in a distribution. Standard deviation says how the data is spread across the mean, right? Now, this is the general formula for finding the standard deviation. Standard deviation is a measure of how spread out the numbers are from the mean. The simplest formula is this. That is taking the square root and summation of x minus x bar the whole square by n. So what is that x bar? It is the mean. You all know how to find the mean, and x is the numbers in the set. Like you have x and f, right? Frequency and all will be given. This is without frequency. And n is the number of observation. If you don't take the square root, this is called as variance. The standard deviation will be equal to 0 when it is possible. When can the standard deviation be 0? Standard deviation will be 0 when all the numbers are same. Yes, great, Ritesh. The standard deviation is 0 when all the numbers are same. Now, we are going to see this question. What is the approximate standard deviation of the below set? The question is, what is the approximate standard deviation? So, we know the procedure for finding the standard deviation. What are we going to do? We are going to find the sum like adding 9 plus 10 plus 11 plus 7 plus 13. What will be the sum? Yeah, it is 50. Then we have to divide that by 5. Then our answer will be, so this is the procedure, right? Finding the mean, then finding the difference between the element and the mean, then squaring it, then adding it and dividing it by the number of terms, right? So now, since they have an approximate standard deviation, so how can we approach this question? So can we eliminate any answer option which can't be here? Can you all say me here? Yeah? Can we eliminate any answer options which can't be? Great. 10 and 15. Why are you having 11? 10 and 15 is correct. So C is your answer? No, C also should be eliminated. That is what Shyam is saying, right? Yeah. Why Shyam? Why should C be eliminated? Because we are going to have the difference, and we can also see the difference between, so what is the mean going to be here? 10, right? So when I have 10 and the difference between the mean and the elements, what is the maximum difference I am getting between the mean and the elements? Is 3, right? So that means my standard deviation should be something closer to or lesser than 3. It can't be 10, 11 and 15, right? So, yeah. So, since it is the mean you wanted to eliminate, yeah. So, now, between 2 and 4 we have to select. So, definitely my mean can't be 4. That is, the standard deviation can't be 4. So, it has to be lesser than 4. The only value here is 2. So, when you work out also and see, you will be getting like root of 5 something, right? So that means root of 5 is definitely less than 4, because if I have to get 4, it should be root of 16. So here my answer option will be only A. So when we do not have time and all, we can just also do this in an approximate way, since the question is asking for find the approximate standard deviation of the below set, right? So find the mean and find the maximum difference between the elements, and closer to that will be your answer option, but not greater than that, right? So that is how we select in an approximate way. Now moving on to the next one. Now the question involving the standard deviation. The number in the data in the set S have a standard deviation of 5. If a new data set is formed by adding 3 to each number in set S, what is the standard deviation of the number in the new data set? So they have told the standard deviation is 5 and they are going to add 3 to each number. So what will be the new standard deviation? So how can we find an answer without actually doing this question? What is the concept we are to know here? What can we know here? Is anybody can answer this question? So the concept which we have to follow here is, if we are going to add or subtract a constant, yes. If we are going to standard deviation plus 3, the standard deviation of the number in the new set, right? So it will not change when you are going to add or subtract a constant, right, from or to all the values in the set. The standard deviation will remain the same. See, for example, if I am having 2, 3 and 4, right? And if I am adding 1 with all, 2 plus 1, 3 plus 1 and 4 plus 1, the standard deviation, the difference between the elements will always remain the same. So the standard deviation will not change. So you can also remember always, if you add or subtract a constant to or from all the values in the set, then the standard deviation will remain the same, because the spread is going to remain the same. That is the reason. So in that case, what is going to be your answer option here? So if it is not going to change, what is going to be our answer? Yeah, it is going to be the same 5. Understood? So what will happen when I am going to multiply or divide? I said adding or subtracting will not change. If I am going to multiply or divide, will it be the same? Yes? Yeah. So the standard deviation also will be multiplied and divided by the same factor. Great. It is, you can remember, like in your elastic band, if you're going to mark some 4 points, right? And if you're going to stretch the band, what will happen? Same proportion, the difference also will increase. So that is the concept. So now, what is the standard deviation of t? A set of consecutive integers. So what do we know about the set? The t has 15 elements. And the second statement says the median value of the set t is 12. So this is a data sufficiency question, and we know that t has 15 elements and the median of the value of set t is 12. So first, what did I say? Understand the question. It is nothing but set of consecutive integers. So now moving on with the statement 1. 15 elements are there. So how are we to give the value? When they say set of consecutive integers, the difference between each term in the set and the mean is the standard deviation, right? So when the set of consecutive integers, the difference is going to be the same. So the standard deviation is nothing but the difference between each term in the set and the mean of the set, because we need mean to find the standard deviation, right? So now going on with the statement 1, t has 15 elements. So when t is a set of consecutive integers, we know that there are 15 terms in the set. So since it is in consecutive, 15 is an odd number, right? So we know the middle value will also be the mean. Mean is equal to median. So we will have 7 terms on one side and 7 terms on the other side, because it is 15 elements. So and when we know they are consecutive, and we can get the difference, and we also know the mean. So we can get the difference between each term in the set and the mean, then automatically we can get the standard deviation. So this statement is sufficient, right? Since we know the number of elements 15, and since we know they are consecutive, and since we know the mean is equal to median, we get all the data required for our finding the standard deviation. So this statement is sufficient. We need not actually find the value. We have to just say whether it is sufficient to get the standard deviation or not, right? Now moving on to the Since first statement is sufficient, our answer option is going to be A or D. Now going to the statement 2. The median value of the set T is 12. Right? Now we know the median value of the set T is 12. So since we know it is 12 the median and we know it is consecutive integers, can I get the standard deviation? Can I get the difference between each term in the set and the mean of the set? So is the statement going to be sufficient? Yeah? Can you tell me whether the second statement is sufficient by itself? Since from the question I know it is consecutive and since I know the median is 12, will it be possible for me to get the standard deviation? What else do I require to get a standard deviation? What will I require to get a standard deviation? Yes? So is this statement sufficient for me to get the standard deviation? Can you all give me an answer for this? We can form the set. Okay. So what numbers can we take for that? Since we know the median is 12, I can have 11, 12 and 13. Since I know it is consecutive integers. Right? So when it is 11, 12 and 13, what will be my standard deviation? Or if it is 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, what will be my standard deviation? Which factor will affect my standard deviation? When I know just the elements and when I know the median, which factor will affect my standard deviation? Yes, great. Number of terms. So if my n is 3 or n is 5, accordingly my standard deviation will change. So will I get the same value? I said we should get the same value, right? So this statement is not going to be sufficient, right? I just know median is equal to the mean, that's all, right? But I do not know how many elements can be in the set. So the number of elements is a factor which can affect my standard deviation. So that means this statement is not sufficient by itself. So if the second statement is not sufficient and if the first statement alone is sufficient, the answer option is going to be A. Clear? Now, shall we move on to the next question? Before going to the next question, the topic which we are going to see in standard deviation, there is one more variation which is called as normal distribution, right? So what is normal distribution? What does that mean? The data, how it is spread across the mean, right? This data can be spread in any way. It can be spread across to the right, or it can be spreading across to the left, or it can be jumbled up. But when it is called normal distribution, the distribution is called normal when it is distributed evenly across the mean. So that we represent with a bell curve, right? So we have a bell curve. This is the formation for normal distribution. That is, the peak, the mode will be the mean and also the median in normal distribution. The data is distributed normally around the mean. That means how much ever it is increasing, the same symmetric on the other side. So we say the data is symmetrical about the mean, right? So this we have like divided into 6 parts. So it is also called as 6 sigma curve. And the 50% of the data will be on the right side of the mean and 50% of the data will be on the left side of the mean. In that 50%, this covers a major portion. So this is covering 34% of the data and the second part will cover the 14% of the data and the third part will cover the 2%. The same on the left side also. So this covers a major portion. So this is 34%, 14% and 2%. So these are the general way of telling the normal distribution. So let us see this example here. If 100 is the mean and 115 is here. So that means what is this portion? From 100 to 115, the difference is your standard deviation. So standard deviation we say here is 15. So if this is mean and this is one deviation away from the mean. So that means I have to add one standard deviation to the mean. So 100 plus 15 will be 115 and the second part is 2 deviations from the mean. So it is 2 deviations above the mean. So that means I have to add 2 deviations to 100. Since my standard deviation is 15, I have to add 2 times 15. So it is 130 and this part will be 3 deviations from the mean. Same goes on the left side. 1 deviation below the mean, 2 deviations below the mean and 3 deviations below the mean. So only we say 6 times the standard deviation will be the range. We know the range is highest minus lowest, right? So 145 minus 55 will be the range, which also can be got as 6 times 15, right? 6 times the standard deviation is going to be my range. And also we can know range is always going to be greater than standard deviation. So the standard deviation is smaller, either it is a normal distribution or without normal distribution also, we can know range is always going to be greater than standard deviation. Now when I say one deviation from the mean, it can be above or below. So the total 68% is said to be one standard deviation from the mean, right? Either below or above. So 96% of all people will fall within 30 points of 100. So that means from 70 to this point. It can be less than 30 or greater than 30. 30 points of 100. So this is how the questions and the wordings will be in the question. So we have to be careful while reading the question. So now can we move on to a question in that? So when they say the population has a distribution that is symmetric about the mean M. So if 68% of the distribution lies within one standard deviation D of the mean, what percent of the distribution is less than M plus D? So we know the total 100%, and where does that M plus 1 deviation come? So what percent of the distribution will be less than M plus D? So if you go and look at it here, so how many are less than M plus D? So these are less than M plus D, and this is greater than M plus D. So in the total 100, you can remove this 16 so that you can get your answer to be, what will be your answer for this question? Yeah, can you all type your answer? What will be the answer for this? What percent of the distribution is less than M plus D? Yeah, your answer please in the chat box. So it is symmetrical about the mean, right? So mean is 50%. So other than that, you're going to have 68% of the distribution lies within one standard deviation of the mean, and what percent of the distribution is less than M plus D? So what is going to be your answer? It is? No, I have not written anything on the screen. The just question is there. Can you see the question, Ritesh? I have not written anything. Are you able to see the question? Yeah. So what will be the answer for this question? What percent of the distribution is less than M plus D? We saw 34, 14 and 2, right? So less than M plus D is 84 and greater than M plus D will be 16%. Okay? So symmetric about the mean. Now moving on to the next question here, which also involves the standard deviation. The mean score of a class on a test was 60 and the standard deviation was 15. If Elena's score was within 2 standard deviations of the mean, what is the lowest score she could have received? So what is the important word in the question which we should be knowing? The mean is 60 and standard deviation is 15. And Elena's score was within 2 standard deviations of the mean. What is the lowest score she could have received? So, lowest score, that is what is needed. So, when we know this mean and when we know the standard deviation and when we know it is within 2 standard deviations, what all can be the values? Yes, Shyam, how did you get C? It is not A and B because they wanted the lowest score she could have received, and when we know it is mean is 60, it can't be above 60, 90 or 65, great. So how can you choose C 45? What is the 2 standard deviations below the mean? That is what we need to find. So this will be 45 will be mean minus 1 time standard deviation, right? We wanted within 2 standard deviations. So it can't be 45, right? So what about 30? It is mean minus 2 standard deviations. Can it be 15? It is above, after the 2 standard deviations. So the only option is option D, right? So because the question is asking for within 2 standard deviations of the mean. Okay, are you all clear now? So 2 standard deviations from the mean means it can be above or below. Since they wanted the lowest score, we are considering only the below one. Okay, so now going on to the next question. So this is again a data sufficiency question. So first thing in data sufficiency question is you should be having patience to clearly read the question, understand them, and it is not like problem solving question where you need to immediately try to solve the question. First understand the data, then understand what we are actually to find, and to get an answer for that question, what is the data we require from the statement? Is the statement giving me a clear solution, right? Is it able to get a solution or not? That is what we have to find. That is why data sufficiency is. Now going to this question. Yeah. During an experiment, some water was removed from each of the 6 tanks. If the standard deviation of the volumes of the water at the beginning of the experiment was 10 gallons, what was the standard deviation of the volumes of the water after the experiment? So we know there are 6 tanks and we know there are some water there and some was removed, right? And if the standard deviation of the volumes of the water at the beginning was 10. So before removing, the standard deviation was 10, right? And what was the standard deviation of the volumes of the water after the experiment? So we need the new standard deviation after removing the water. So to get the standard deviation, we require the mean and we require the difference, right? And also what other thing we require and what are we going to get from the statement, right? Now for each tank, 30% of the volume of water that was in the tank before the beginning of the experiment was removed during the experiment. So they have not told how much water was there, but we know the standard deviation of the volumes from the question, and here they are saying 30% of the volume of the water was in the tank before the beginning of the experiment was removed during the, so if 100 was there, 30 was removed. So remaining is 70, like that. That is what we know. And the second statement says the average volume of water in the tank at the end of the experiment was 63 gallons. So average volume of the water in the tanks. Now all over the 6 tanks, we know the average was 63 after the experiment, but we do not know what was before. So how can we proceed with this question? Are you all having any idea how to start it? It should be. So can you all remember any concept which we shared little bit earlier for the previous questions? I was talking about some concept, right? By multiplying or dividing. Can you remember that one? So during an experiment, this is a question, right? Yeah. So new SD will be 0.7 into old SD. Yeah. So how can you say that? What is the concept behind that? If you increase or decrease all the values by a fixed factor or a percentage, then the standard deviation will increase or decrease by the same percentage. This is a concept we have to remember here because 30% of the volume of the water tank before the beginning of the experiment was removed during the experiment, right? So the 30% of the water is removed. So the standard deviation is also going to be differing by the same factor, right? So that is the concept here. So both mean and the standard deviation will decrease by 30%. So the standard deviation will decrease to 7 gallons. We had 10 gallons, right? So same 30% decrease, the new standard deviation is going to be 7 gallons, right? The question appeared to be a very a hard one, but when you understand the concept and when you know what the question is actually asking you to find, if you apply that, this question becomes very easier. So this is one of the hard questions because it is concept based. So now, are you all clear with this? So the first statement is enabling us to get the new standard deviation. That means it is sufficient. So our answer option is going to be A or D, right? So the second statement. The average volume of the water in the tank at the end of the experiment was 63 gallons. So here we know the average. We need average to find standard deviation. So that means this is the average at the end of the experiment. So we know the volume of the water at the end of the experiment. So will that help us to get the standard deviation? Yeah. So is this statement sufficient? Can you all type your answer? Is this statement sufficient to get your answer? What is the question asking for? Standard deviation of the volumes of the water after the experiment. Since you know the total and the average after the experiment, is this sufficient to get the standard deviation? Because we do not know the spread of the numbers, right? We know 63 gallons, we're taking most of the water out of the tank. That was already lowest. Then the standard deviation will be big because we have some tanks almost full and some can be empty. They have not told how much water was there in the previous one. But if you are taking most of the water of the fullest tank, the standard deviation will be smaller. Right? The standard deviation is smaller or bigger depending on how it is spread across the mean. Very closely packed or very scarcely packed. If it is closely packed, standard deviation will be bigger, and if it is spread across a lot, the standard deviation is going to be smaller. So this doesn't give us a proper value for standard deviation. So this statement is not sufficient by itself. So it is only option A, right? Are you all clear with that? Yes. Now we have come to the end of the session and it is a question and answer session. Whatever doubts you had, you can just post in your box. Yeah, chat box, you can post your questions. So now you are all aware of how the standard deviations questions can come in your GMAT and what are the concepts which will be requiring to answer those questions. Yeah, hope this session was all useful to you all. Any questions? Please post your questions. So we have our next GMAT webinar coming on. Yeah, some of these questions are definitely 700 level questions. Yeah, definitely. We have chosen because we wanted you all to know how those type of questions can also solve in an easy way. So please join the other webinar sessions also and get benefited. And if you have any queries, any data required, please log on into our facebook.com Manya group, or you have our toll-free number, or you can log on into our website regarding the batches, regarding the classes which you want. If you are wanting that, please log on to our website and get to know, or you can contact to any of our centers. We have centers spread all over India. So you can know where are we having the centers in our website. So whichever is closer to you, please, you can go and visit the centers and get your batches, which is very suitable for you. Yeah, definitely, Sham. You're getting this recording in the YouTube. You'll find it. We'll be uploading it in the YouTube. Any questions? Have you all already taken any mock test or? When are you all planning to take your GMAT? Anybody here planning to take it in the near future? Have you all joined, started your preparation? Please contact us for help for your preparation in your GMAT. Yeah. Thank you, Arnab. And thank you one and all here. All the best for your GMAT. Best wishes from Manya, the Princeton review. We'll wind up the session. Do you have any other questions? So meet you all in the next webinar session. So the next coming up webinar is on 4th September, which is topic is going to be GMAT inferences, don't jump to conclusions. The same time, Sunday 12:30 to 2 p.m. Right? Have a good day. Have a good week ahead.